Okay, so it's Claire Fox, otherwise known as Baroness Fox of Buckley, and this is the first of my regular behind the scenes at the Lords, and it's been my first week in the House of Lords, so I thought I'd let you know what's going on in the institution. I've jotted down a few notes. So, what have I learned from being in the Lords this week? God, not a lot. In some ways, it's been fascinating to walk into a completely new institution, not a clue which way to go, which way down the corridor to go, and of course people are wearing masks and it's one-way systems and so on. It's an alien environment for me, but there's a few observations that I thought I'd share with you. The first thing is the House of Lords is working, but it's a hybrid version of it. And that means that a lot of the speeches and a lot of the voting happens remotely. So that dreaded notion of Zoom means that you don't get to see all of the Lords all at once. But I have made an attempt to go into the chamber every day this week. And that's what I intend to do from now on, to physically be there, because I don't think you can really get the feel otherwise. The staff have been absolutely brilliant, from the security guards to the doorkeepers, just have scooped me up somewhat, recognising that I'm not your usual suspect for in there, so I'd like to acknowledge that. And I've made a few allies, both with them and also in the smoking outpost, which is miles away. But it was really nice, I was there when Kate Hoey and Charles Moore were introduced, and, there is a kind of Brexit solidarity. Gisela Stewart was very good and came while I was being introduced. Daniel Moylan, who is a Tory Brexiteer, has been very kind to me, also new to the House of Lords. And I think that kind of sense of some solidarity for those of us who are involved in the Leave campaign in different ways has been very important. Helena Morrissey, who is a new peer, a Tory peer, has already made an impact. And just to say that people keep asking me why I haven't spoken yet, it's because you're not allowed to speak until you make your maiden speech. I'm making my maiden speech now next Tuesday afternoon, and I will let people know. I probably get about 2.5 minutes, so this is not going to be a great grandstanding speech. But once I've made that maiden speech, I can contribute. And Helena Morrissey made her maiden speech quite early and has already, I think, been very impressive. One of the things which obviously is preoccupying the Lords and everyone is COVID legislation. Just a little insight on that. The way it works is that the Lords act as a check and balance on what's happening in Parliament, but there's a junior minister called Lord Bethell, and he has to answer questions from the Lords on all of the different lockdown legislation. And you'd think there might be a big debate. But to be honest with you, 95%, probably more, is why aren't you locking down harder? Why are you not making masks compulsory? All of these suggestions coming both from Tories, Lib Dems, crossbenchers, Labour Party, there's always why aren't you doing more? And you can see how the government feel as though they've got to react to that, because they're not talking to ordinary people, they're listening to the pressure that's coming from those, in this instance, these baronesses and lords. And I can see that they look like they're the spirit of freedom, because they're saying, oh, we're not going to do that, that would be too extreme. But obviously, in the real world, we all know that actually there is another side to the debate. Helena Morrissey and other peers, just a few of them, have made an effort to try and raise things like the Great Barrington Declaration, just suggest that there are other ways of looking at this. They have been broadly dismissed, almost as though flat earthers. So that goes on here as well. I will obviously be trying to ensure that I raise some alternative points of view. The only other thing to say is that I do think that the people in the Lords are well-meaning, and they do talk about the people in the North a lot, and there is a lot of concern about marginalised communities, the impact of lockdown on people financially. But how can I say it? It feels somewhat from on high. It feels as though it's got a certain concern at a distance. And what I would really like to be able to contribute to the Lords is sort of sense of more on-the-ground feelings, and I hope that I can do that. I'm not going to be able to change this institution very easily at all, but I do hope that I can add a different type of voice to it. And I will, at the very least, be answerable by bringing you weekly updates, hopefully with a bit more detail and a bit more informed than this, but just to give you a sense that The one warning that people will say to you is don't get sucked into this institution. And that's what's been said to me by people in the Lords. They're saying, don't just disappear. I won't. I'll be here.